we had, and this is our fourth session in the series of the reading of the translation of Jeevan Vidya Ek Parichaya. So we had two sessions by Drishta and one session by Spencer, and this is his second session. So in this, so far, we have actually read about the narration of Babaji about his journey from the point where he started and about his sadhana. We had some discussion about that. And then after that, we talked about uh, how we understood the existence and various implications of that in psychology and sociology and so on and so forth. Then after that, he basically talked about um, how he has presented the whole structure of darshan, that is how he has written the darshan itself, Manav Vyavhar Darshan, Darshanvad Shastra. We had some discussion about that. So there, Surendra Pal Bhaiya also joined in that, where he gave us an overview of how the darshan has been organized, right? And in this last session, Spencer also started talking about Jeevan Vidya, where the essentially where Babaji is talking about Jeevan, that what is Jeevan, which is the crux of this whole presentation of Madhya's Darshan, and that is why it has been called as it is propagated with the title Jeevan Vidya. So who I am or what is consciousness is something which has been enigmatic from all the while, and which has been the subject of all the sadhana and everything that has actually taken place. So near here, he actually goes on to describe uh, that I can only be understood in the context of existence. Okay, so because existence, I is a part of existence, unless we understand existence, there is no context of understanding I. So he says that unless you understand the order of existence, the way the things are, you can't actually understand the positioning of I, right? So consciousness is not something that can be studied in isolation from existence. It has to be studied in the context of existence. So that is something that we started. And there actually one also realizes that while there is a story of Babaji, we see that how our life stories are also become tied with that, right? And we heard the story of Drishta, we heard the story of Spencer, right? So this young boy of 18, he comes all the way from Canada to actually explore, right? And it actually affects him so profoundly. And then we listen to Drishta in how, as a young girl, she actually observes her parents and their friends. And in some ways, basically, at some point, she starts exploring and asking questions in her own right. And uh, so we see that it's all one story and many stories getting tied up in the same way. And so it was something very interesting that uh, we are all part of this one big story of existence, right? In which we see a process of evolution, right? Which we have our shared past and a shared future, right? So with this, I hand over the session to Spencer to take us further. Spencer, till which page did you cover last time?
Yeah. So thanks for the introduction. Last time I went until page number 40. I completed page number 40.
Okay,
So we will be starting on page number 42.
okay, good, good. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the introduction, Rakeshji. I'll be continuing now from where I left off. And as mentioned, we've started the chapter or the heading of Jeevan Vidya, so understanding Jeevan. So I had read 2 pages within this section. The first describing the actual structure of Jivan in a way, which is the conscious unit, and describing the hungry and bloated atoms and how they move towards becoming satiated or constitutionally complete. Next, we had explored how there's no part of the body which wants to be happy. Rather, it's Jivan which wants to be happy. And Nagaraji Babaji had discovered that happiness can be attained through understanding and living with resolution, or living with this understanding in his life. In the past, we've tried to attain happiness from consumption or from renunciation, but neither has been successful thus far. And instead, Babaji says that we will need to understand values and evaluation. And this will free us from this trap that we're in, which is living according to body, which is living according to fear and greed. And instead of trying to create order based on fear and temptation, rather we should understand values and evaluation, and that will get explored further on. So now I'll continue from page 42 from the top here. In order to attain resolution, humans will have to develop a process to establish orderliness through values and evaluation. Based on developed consciousness, humane consciousness, we will succeed if orderliness is established by keeping Jivan, its relationships, its satisfaction, and its goals at the center. If we forego Jivan and build whatever systems for the welfare of body, then it will only give rise to disorder. That which feels right for the body is not always right. The body as an activity is not eternal. It has to change again and again, while Jivan has eternal continuity. Therefore, we need to have the wisdom to make decisions based on Jivan. Jivan is in the same form in all humans. The strength of Jivan is the same in all humans. Jivan's power and strength are inexhaustible. It doesn't get destroyed or diminished. Why doesn't it diminish? Jivan atom doesn't undergo any change in its constitution, so its power and strength are inexhaustible. The strength and power of an entity manifest themselves in the state and motion respectively. Bearing witness to the presence of Jivan in them, every human accepts continuity of their being. Being itself is presence. The study of every reality happens only in the present. Similarly, Jivan is present in all humans. In the same form, its strengths and powers are the same in all. Fourthly, the goal of Jivan is happiness. All humans want to be happy. The goal of all humans is to become happy. We need to keep these 4 facts in mind. Jivan is a constitutionally complete atom. It is a conscious unit. Who creates it? It is a long-standing belief that there has to be some creator and destroyer for everything. Humans also think of themselves on the same basis. We too can create and destroy. That is the basic foundation of science. This belief of creator and destroyer has caused a lot of frustrations. Some nations say that they can make the atomic bomb, while others say they can't. This cannot be the basis of equality among nations. Equality is in the natural state of being in existence, while making bombs is unnatural or contrary to coexistence. Existence is naturally coexistence. If we do anything unnatural, then somewhere or the other, it has to face resistance. Similarly, Commerce has become profit obsessed, endlessly chasing more. One person thinks it is less, another person thinks it is more, and they keep fighting. Humans could not live with health and happiness anywhere in this way. Therefore, humans will have to live with values and evaluation in the purview of awakened consciousness to attain health and happiness. The first step for that is understanding. The second step is honesty. The third step, responsibility. And the fourth step, participation. Humans produce evidence of their understanding in these four steps. The understanding is under three headings: knowledge of Jivan, knowledge of philosophy of coexistence, and knowledge of humane conduct. I explained about Jivan to you. Jivan is eternal. It aspires for happiness, and it can evidence happiness only in the human tradition. The first step for that is to understand Jivan, which is called Jeevan Vidya. Jivan is the bearer and carrier of Vidya. There are three parts in the manifestation of Vidya: knowledge, the learning, and the learned. Knowledge, Vidya, entire coexistence itself is the source of knowledge. Knowledge is in coexistence itself. Jivan too is inseparable in coexistence. Learning. It is the state of understanding which is acceptance of coexistence in Jivan. And learned. The human becomes learned. Every human is a combined form of Jivan and body. What is the content for understanding? The entire existence in the form of coexistence. This learning itself is the object of knowing, believing, and living. Jivan is the entity that is the carrier and bearer of learning, and human is the one who evidences it. Human is a combined form of Jivan and body. In this way, the importance of human, Jivan, and coexistence becomes clear. Existence is in the form of coexistence. There is development in coexistence. Development results in Jivan. Jivan attains awakening. For this, coexistence itself is the seen, and Jivan itself is the perceiver. The composition and decomposition activities in the physiochemical world are complementary and interrelated. All these activities are eternally present. You will not find any moment, any day, or any century when there is no physiochemical activity. It is Jivan who is the perceiver of all these composition and decomposition activities. The entity that perceives and understands is only Jivan. The body does not understand anything. The part of the body which does not have the aliveness of Jivan is called numb. The hot or cold doesn't get sensed in that place. Another example, we get no sense of pain from cutting and stitching of the body during surgery under anesthesia. Therefore, we understand that the sensory perception happens only in those parts of the body where Jivan maintains aliveness. Whenever Jivan becomes eager for its own satisfaction, it starts its quest for truth, actuality, and reality. Therefore, it is Jivan which is the basis of happiness. This was the reason the need arose in me for understanding Jivan. This need is there in all: the rich, the poor, the mighty, the weak, the old, and the young. Great. So, if I just pause there. So what I got from these last two pages is that, as I said, we need to make decision based on Jivan, because Jivan is the eternal entity. It's as he mentions here, it's unchanging. Its constitution does not undergo any change. Whereas the body is continuously changing. It's continuously in a constant flux. So at least, I do lots of construction projects, and he says we need to build our life based on Jivan, based on its goals, based on its requirements, and not based on the body, because it's always changing. And I do lots of construction, and analogy that came to my mind was, when you're building a house, you want to build on a very properly solid foundation, So you need stone or concrete. Only then you can build on top of that. And when I think about building based on the body, you're just building on nothing. You're trying to build on the air, something that's always changing, that doesn't have any fixed reality, So you'll never get anything conclusive out of that. Whereas if we focus on the goals of Jivan, then we have something definite, something that won't change, something that can guide our life from start to finish and can unify all of us. So uh, so I found that to be quite interesting. He talks about finding equality, and again, equality is Jivan because it's eternally present in all of us in the same way. It's no different in you or in I. Our equality will not be found on the basis of skills or accomplishments. In this case, making an atom bomb. Um, and he further goes on to explain, what is the content of understanding, or what is knowledge that we need to attain. And he explains a little bit further that there's three parts. One is knowledge, one is the learning, and one is the learned. So knowledge is understanding of entire coexistence, of which Jivan is a part. And then learning is Jivan accepting that understanding of coexistence, or Jivan becoming aware of those things. And then the learned itself becomes human being. And human being then, as a combination of Jivan and body, provides evidence or lives according to that understanding. So you have those three things there. Okay, I'm going to continue. Page 46. We find another maxim here. There is no existential basis of class struggle, according to Jeevan Vidya. Here, coexistence is recognized as the basis for the universal well-being, source of everyone's continuous happiness, the evidence of resolution in living. All these emerge on their own upon understanding. In my view, humans want this very knowledge. They want to live like this only. We can live happily only in the togetherness of all. Humans are not in isolation. That is the principle. If humans try to become happy by leaving their relationship with the earth, then it is bound to fail. No one can become happy upon leaving their relationship with the water. If we cannot become happy by leaving material things, then how will we become happy by ignoring Jivan? How can we become so mechanical? How can we be without feelings? Just think, how can we live like this? When we go to the market, we ask about the value of each and everything, vegetables, grains, golds, etc. Who is the perceiver of value? Only humans are. Since everything has a value, humans should also have value. There is a necessity of knowing the value of humans. Instead, we assigned value to everything else. Once we have latched onto the value of those things where there was scope for making profit, well, if we understood the value of humans, then we will become free from profit and loss. By understanding human values, Jivan values, established values, and civic values, the concern for profit and loss disappears. We would then live based on the usefulness value. Such a big burden would be lifted from the earth. Profit and loss is a vicious cycle in which humans can't secure themselves, let alone others. The vicious trap destroys everyone and everything. Humans can come out of this trap only when they become capable of understanding values. It is not going to happen before that. We have beaten our heads against the wall in these efforts, but it hasn't led to anything. Its testimony is communism and capitalism. Communism couldn't become free from profit and ended up struggling for national profit, while capitalism is profitist by declaration. Therefore, humans need to understand their values in order to become free from profit and loss. There is a need to fulfill human values. How will this come about? One actualizes human values upon understanding Jeevan Vidya, i.e., understanding existence in the form of coexistence and discrimination in humane conduct. This is called understanding. It is when we start living with values that we become capable and thereby proficient in doing what is right. Until then, we remain trapped in the obsession or another, and we don't find a way for doing what is right. So in this page, Babaji mentioned something very interesting in that, we have not yet understood the value of human being. We've understood the value of all these other things, vegetables, grain, gold. We've assigned some value. We want those things. They're useful for us. But human, we're not quite sure what exactly we're doing here. And again, related to construction, these examples keep coming to my mind. Many times I found some unique item and I have no idea what it is. And without understanding what it is, I might perceive it as rubbish. I might throw it in the trash. I might put it aside. Whatever it could be. It's just maybe it's a strange piece of metal that doesn't seem to make sense. It seems useless. And it will only be maybe months, maybe years later when I learn that this is a very specific tool and how awesome it was that I already had it. I didn't need to even purchase it, but maybe by that time I forgot where it is or I've thrown it. So, I feel like it's the same with human beings. We don't understand our true potential. We don't understand what we're capable of. That is, we don't understand we're able to understand to live happily in harmony. And therefore, we just get caught up in this cycle of accumulation and profit and struggle and greed in living according to body, So human being needs to understand their value, their usefulness here. And he goes on to say that, communism and capitalism, today we might see them as different, as two opposites of the spectrum, when in reality they both are boiled down to profit accumulation, to the material world, basically. They do not tap into Jivan, into understanding, into orderliness. So they're still just tied up in the same realm of materialism, or basically trying to find happiness and satisfaction through material fulfillment, living according to the body. So I will continue. We need to understand Jivan and humane conduct in coexistence in order to become wise. This itself is Jeevan Vidya. Vidya has two parts, knowledge of Jivan and the knowledge of coexistential philosophy. Jivan is the carrier and bearer of these both. The knowledge of Jivan means the process of Jivan understanding Jivan. The process of understanding existence by a Jivan is being called knowledge of coexistential philosophy. All Jivans are the same, and Jivans in all humans are therefore the same. What is the nature of sameness? It became clear that all Jivans are the same in the way they know Jivan, the way they evidence knowledge, the way they understand existence, the way they evidence coexistence. There is no provision of understanding in any part of the body, such as hands, legs, ears, nose, eyes, brains, or heart. The provision is only in Jivan. Jivan is the only entity that understands Jivan and coexistence. Nothing else would understand. Therefore, we reach the conclusion that the combined form of Jivan and body is necessary for expressing and evidencing the understanding. It would neither happen only with the body, nor would it happen only with Jivan. The evidence is centered on the orderly living of humans and their participation in the overall orderliness, which itself is the actualization of understanding. All of us want to live in orderliness, as this process is inherent in Jivan. It is not something externally imposed on us. In the course of understanding coexistence, it becomes clear that existence is coexistence, because nature saturated, immersed, soaked, and surrounded in omnipotence or omnipresence is the entire existence. Nature is in the form of entities that can be counted. Humans are the ones who count. The countable entities are all sentient and insentient nature. There is one small maxim. Humans become happy with understanding, and they remain unhappy till they live in ignorance or animal consciousness. The whole world has kept struggling until now. First, they struggled with forces of nature and wild animals. Then they struggled thinking they would become happy by doing penance, doing yoga, or becoming an ascetic. People experimented with these things as well, but they could not evidence happiness. So its tradition could not be formed. Next, they struggled thinking that accumulating a lot of material things and comfort would make them happy. That too didn't work. No one became happy from either of these ideas. In the course of rethinking, it emerged that understanding leads to resolution, and resolution leads to happiness. The understanding manifests in right work and behavior. Humans are one in the right and many in the wrong. It is not possible for you to agree or to concur with my wrongdoing, nor is it possible for me to agree or concur with your wrongdoing. That which is wrong for you as it is for me. We are one in the right. This I understood. Our well-being becomes assured only in, from, for the understanding. It is only from the understanding that we become happy and prosperous. It is only with the understanding that we live orderly in the present. It is only with the understanding that we evidence coexistence in the form of tradition. There are 4 stages of happiness: living with resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence. We become happy when these 4 become evident in our living. Before that, we keep trying in, from, and for tradition of the understanding. In this pursuit, humans have performed all sorts of chanting, penance, prayers, recitation of scriptures, yoga, yajna, etc. We have amassed a lot of material things in this pursuit, but it hasn't resulted in happiness for all. Happiness for all requires their becoming wise. The understanding can be made accessible to all. The first step for this is understanding existence, which consists of 4 orders. The first is material order, which comprises soils, stones, gems, metals, etc., which already evidence definite conduct. The second is plant order, which consists of all trees, plants, vegetations, medicinal herbs, and these 2 evidence their respective definite conducts. The third is animal order, which includes all animals, birds, etc., other than humans, and these also evidence inherent orderliness. The fourth is knowledge order, which consists of humans only, who are yet to become orderly. Just think, the most developed order is lagging behind all. What does this mean? It is no wonder that humans are suffering. Therefore, our character also needs to be developed. Each entity in existence evidences orderliness in the form of their conduct. Humans will also evidence orderliness through their conduct. This is the maxim which all of us will have to verify in our living. As we go about this verification, we first understand the entity within us that actually understands. After this, we understand the entity that lives based on that understanding. Thereafter, we understand what we will accomplish with this understanding, by this understanding. This is the extent of human potential. Humans are placed in the knowledge order. What is the basis for considering humans in the knowledge order? In animal consciousness, humans work and behave according to what they believe they've understood, even without knowing. Every human has the potential of believing. A person who is living in animal consciousness doesn't know. Still, he claims that he knows, while all is just a belief. This is a contradiction because it is not possible to testify for universal well-being while living in animal consciousness. Deluded humans have this very contradiction. 99% of people believe themselves to be body only, and this delusion has given rise to all kinds of worries and frustrations. Now they desire to become free from these worries, and this endeavor is meant for that. Great. So just to recap here, what Babaji is saying in a few different ways, I believe, is how human beings have pursued to become happy with various means, whether it's through consumption, feeling good with the body, which I'm sure I'm very familiar with, I'm sure you might be as well, in that you are not feeling good, you want to boost your mood, you want to do something, so you consume, you eat, you experience. So this is one way which we're constantly trying to be happy. And the second way, which is more by doing penance, yoga, becoming an ascetic, silencing the senses, is in a way opposite to this. Instead of really enjoying, we're trying to actually silence. We're trying to make sure that our senses are not stimulating us, that we're moving towards stillness in our minds and trying to become quiet. So these are two very different approaches. And again, Babaji is saying that we've struggled with both. We've struggled to try and achieve happiness in both. And he explains his story in his pursuit to attain happiness or understanding through the idealistic or the spiritual method, and where he reached his dead end there. So I think, again, he's saying that now the solution is being presented in front of us, that he's found happiness through understanding of coexistence, through understanding of Jivan. And another point that he brings is what happens after you have this understanding. And after understanding, the result is orderliness in living. So the content of understanding is there, it's coexistence. The one who understands is also clear, that's human being. Understanding doesn't happen in the previous orders, it doesn't happen in the animals. The wisdom is accomplished in human being. That's our specialty. That's what makes us, puts us in knowledge order, or we have the capacity to understand. And lastly, what do we do once we have this understanding? That is, we evidence orderliness in our living. We recognize our relationships, we fulfill them accordingly, and there is a complementariness or coexistence that we can evidence. But as of right now, because we have not understood, we're actually causing all the disorder. So he points out, what a thing that the most advanced unit is actually lagging the most behind. So despite being in the knowledge order, it doesn't just come by birth. We actually need to go through the process of understanding, and only then we'll be able to live in orderliness along with in coexistence. Yeah. He also mentions something very interesting, that there's knowing and believing, and even today, even though we don't know, we don't have knowledge, we still do everything based on our beliefs. So we're not whatever we believe to be true, that's how we act. So you can see this thread is there in human being, to behave based on whatever Jivan has accepted. And now I'll continue. Again, page 52, the second paragraph. It is only humans among the four orders of nature who cannot become happy without understanding and becoming resolved. Material order is regulated by way of structural conformity. Plant order is regulated by way of seed conformity. Animal order is regulated by way of species conformity. The evidence of regulation is in the form of orderliness and definite conduct. Apart from humans, Every unit of nature also has definite conduct. There is a need for definite conduct in humans also. Humans become regulated by sanskar conformity. What is sanskar? Sanskar is understanding in the form of developed consciousness. The evidence of understanding is humane conduct. When humans become wise, they live in orderliness, and their conduct is humane. When they aren't able to live in orderliness, their conduct is called inhumane. This gives us the definition of humane and inhumane conduct. After this, we realize whether we have its need or not. Humans have a natural tendency towards what they need. This is the path for awakening. Jivan is neither born nor does it die. It is the body that undergoes composition and decomposition. Jivan wants to drive the human body in a natural way. What is the natural way of Jivan? The understanding and program for becoming happy. All animals only exhibit hope of living by way of species conformity, while humans want to live with happiness, and they face trouble when they try to live according to lineage. That is all there is to it. This needs to be understood and evidenced properly. The understanding itself is to be evidenced. When I make others understand upon my having understood from you, only then you become evidenced. This is the way we get the understanding gets transmitted in the form of tradition. Ignorance cannot get transmitted into human tradition. The content of understanding doesn't have any variation. The variation, if any, happens in its expression, whereby every generation it shall become stronger and sharper. The way of doing right would keep becoming sharper and more accessible. Its need is there in all humans. Therefore, a wise person can offer their understanding to the next generation and thereby become satisfied. And the next generation can also become satisfied thereby. Humans are sanskar conforming units. Sanskar is the combined presence of understanding, honesty, responsibility, and participation. Since the wrongs are not acceptable to anyone, therefore the wrong are not sanskar. No one accepts the wrongs, but remains trapped into them. One may have committed 1,000 wrongs, but those wrongs are not acceptable to them. Since the wrongs are not acceptable to anyone, no one offers them to the next generation. Therefore, ignorance, the wrongs, does not become tradition. All these testimonies lead to the conclusion that understanding is the only basis of tradition. The focus of understanding is in equality in humane consciousness. The basis of equality in humans is Jivan. Constitutional completeness and inexhaustible strength and powers are the common attributes in every Jivan. My capacity to hope, think, and desire remains intact, irrespective of the extent to which I may hope, think, or desire. The inexhaustible strength and powers in Jivan could have been there if it couldn't have been there if it were not free from change in its constitution. This is the logic for accepting constitutional completeness of Jivan. How can I verify the understanding that got accepted within me? It is verified in behavior, work, and orderliness. I verified my work and behavior many times and found that my living is orderly in the form of resolution and prosperity. Universal orderliness has not yet materialized in the human tradition. My living in the form of undivided society and orderliness is the evidence in human tradition of my having understood the reality as it is in existence, thereby becoming a source of realization for others. Realization keeps strengthening and multiplying thereby. This paves the way for realization-based living in humans. In conclusion, upon attaining the understanding, humans live in orderliness based on realization. Animal order stays in orderliness by species conformity, plant order by seed conformity, and material order by structural conformity. So we can conclude that the understanding is definite, and it is about living with developed consciousness. The bearer and carrier of understanding is definite. Thereby, the evidence of understanding is also definite. Jivan itself becomes wise. Jivan is the entity that understands, while evidence of understanding happens only in the human tradition, because only the human body has a fully developed brain. Great. So, uh, of course, Babaji summarizes himself better than I can summarize. And in the last paragraph, he summarizes what he's been saying um, in that, yeah, Jivan is the bearer and carrier of understanding. And this part actually I found quite interesting, the way he said it in that um, Jivan is definite, the understanding is definite, and the content of understanding is also definite, and the evidence of understanding is also definite. So you can see it's um, a precise program here. It's not very open-ended, which makes it more easily digestible. If knowledge is something very vast or something which has never ends, if there's never ending knowledge, such as the idea we have in science, then it doesn't really make it accessible. Whereas here, Babaji is actually it's very direct, very precise, and and therefore, it's the same for everyone. When I have understanding, when you have understanding, it will be precisely the same. He does say that there's difference in the expression. So upon understanding how I work, what's my production look like, how does my arrangement in living look like, my house, everything, the expression, the poetry, the music, all these things will continue to become refined and explored, but the content of understanding remains the same now and always. It always will. So, um, and it's precisely because it is so precise that is what is allows for the continuity. It allows to continue in human tradition. Whether I'm here or the next generation or the next generation, he says that human beings are uh, sanskar conforming. Sanskar or understanding or knowledge is that which allows human tradition to continue. Without it, um, there's no continuity in human tradition. We might actually, in fact, wipe ourselves out, where he mentions matter is by structural conformance. So it continues based on its form. Plants continue based on their seed. A plant grows, it produces a seed, and therefore the seed becomes the next plant, and the tradition continues. Animals based on their breed. So, they're able to reproduce, and based on the structure of their body, they continue in the ecosystem. But humans, in order to find continuity, we conform based on our understanding. So it's not enough just to live based on body alone. That only leads to disorder or animal consciousness. There's no guarantee humans can continue this way. Eventually, we can wipe ourselves out. Whereas with knowledge, with understanding, sanskar, that allows human beings to continue. That is what gets passed from one generation to the next. It's definite. It's like the seed in a plant. It provides continuity to human being. So there you have it. That's my explanation. That's my reading, and that's my section for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining and listening.
Very nice, Spencer. I especially like the point where you said that from your experience of building, that if we build on a shaky foundation, then we won't have a building that will actually stay for very long. So, so when we make the foundation of our living based on body, which is always changing, and then in that case, whatever we make, build on that, whatever relationships we identify, whatever structures that we make, whatever systems that we make, are going to be actually on shaky foundations, and they will collapse sooner or later.
Mm.
But if we actually make our living on the foundation of something that is eternal, which is common, which is the basis of equality, then in that case, we will actually have our living on the sound foundations, and it is going to be having a lasting thing. Also, when you talked about that, I mean, there is a strong message over here that existence is definite, understanding is definite. So it's not an open-ended thing that, okay, there can be more, its knowledge is unlimited, there's no end to learning. So he's saying that there is something which is, it's very clear what is the syllabus and what you need to understand. So if you understand this, that is the understanding that all you need to live in harmony. So excellent, Spencer. So this was so very well done. So I'm sure Estelle will be very proud of you as well as we are. So there you are. So I will actually open the floor for some questions for Spencer. Yes, yeah, Mr. Yadav ji.
Hello, namaste everyone. Am I
Namaste,
audible?
namaste. Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Namaste, Leah. Yeah, first of all, thanks to Spencer for this wonderful session. Actually, I'm outside, so there might be some disturbance in the background. I apologize for that.
No
So
problem.
my question is that uh, in this last paragraph, when Spencer said that G1 is definite and the understanding is definite. So my maybe I'm missing some point here. I would just want to know that when we say Jeevan has Akshay and Shakti, so how can we just define the boundary uh, if I am just interpreting it wrong? Please correct me. So that's my question. What do we mean by this definite when we say Jeevan and the understanding?
Spencer?
Yes. Sorry, there was a couple Hindi words in there I didn't catch. You said
Yeah, so basically, what, as I understand, that what he said was, um, at one end, we are saying that Jivan has inexhaustible forces and strengths, right? And at the other point, we are saying that Jivan is definite. So, so how is there a contradiction here, right? And we are
mhm,
saying that Jivan is definite, and at the other end, we are saying that it has inexhaustible strengths and powers. So, uh, so at one end, it is saying that it is endless. It can, it will never diminish. At
mhm.
another end, we are saying that it is definite. So, what is the meaning of this? Have I understood correctly, Chandrashi?
Ji, Riya.
Ji.
Thank you.
Great. I can try and answer, and then afterwards, Rakesh,
Mhm.
you can fill in. So, first of all, I think when Babaji says inexhaustible strengths and forces, um, maybe one could get the idea that it means that Jivan can do anything, or that it's there's lots of possibilities, inexhaustible or many, many options. This is the at least one thing that takeaway people could have, people say in your life, you can do whatever you want to do or whatever you set your mind to, you can achieve. I don't think this is accurate. Jivan is an entity of existence and it's bound by existence. In the same way, if you take like let's say water molecule, uh, yes, it has some variation, but there's only so much it can do. It operates within its um, within its possibility. So the inexhaustible strength and forces, I believe, refers to, because Jivan as an entity, it does not undergo any change. The Jivan atom does not diminish. It does not undergo any change. Nothing is added, nothing is taken away. Therefore, its structure is continuous. So when he says inexhaustible strength and forces, I believe it's more referring to that, whereas it's now like a perpetual motion machine, you could say. It does not diminish or degrade, whereas everything in material world, it's slowly degrading. The particles, nothing is going to remain forever as it is. If I take this cup, the particles are slowly are disintegrating. They continue to exist, but in many different forms. And so, or in the body requires, in order to function, it requires some nourishment. And if you go to the cellular level, they say that the fuel for the cell is the ATP, the type of protein, that exists there. And but this is something which gets consumed, in order for your body to move, it needs to consume the fuel, or in order for your car to move, it needs to consume the petrol. So there's always an undergoing change, whereas in Jivan, it doesn't require any fuel. It simply is inexhaustible. So I don't see any contradiction between saying that it's inexhaustible and that it's definite. The inexhaustible strength and forces more, in my mind, refers to its attributes or its qualities, and it's the fact that it's definite refers to that it behaves in certain ways. It's has a predictable conduct in all situations. This is a rough
So
explanation.
that's why you can understand, because it's definite, it's not going to change.
Yeah, as Estelle says, it's because you can understand it because it's not changing on you. If something is always changing and becoming something else, then how will you catch it to understand it?
Yep,
Maybe
I think very well explained. In fact, Astle added very critical point that it is a definite reality. Definite means that there is immortal reality and there is mortal reality, right? So in that sense, it is definite. And now the immortal reality, that means doesn't disintegrate, it stays as it is. That's the nature of this reality, right? And then we says that it expresses not the material functions, but conscious functions. And there we talked about various faculties of consciousness, like hope, like thought, like desire, like understanding and realization. So this is a reality which is the essence of consciousness, or which is the consciousness itself, right? And it is definite because it is just like you would describe an hydrogen atom, it is a definite reality in existence. In the same way, Jivan is a definite reality in existence, which expresses a certain nature. So yeah, so I hope Chandranshi, your question got answered here.
Yeah, are we saying that this definite means about the structure of Jivan when we say the 10 Kriyas when we discuss? Uh, I'm just
Yes,
assuming that's
right.
what we say when we say it's definite, that its structure is definite, but it has inexhaustible strength and focus. Am I right about it?
Yes, it is a definite reality. The way that we basically are saying, it's not just a concept, right? It is a definite reality which can be understood, described. It is there in the nature, right? The way we are talking about a hydrogen atom is there, uh, and water is there. In the same way, the reality of Jivan is there. And every human is a Jivan and body combined. And Jivan is a definite reality in the sense that it can be understood, it is there much like as material entities are there. It's just that its functions are different, right?
Yeah. Okay. So we can say that Jivan is definite in the sense that we can study about it as a structure and as a whole.
Yeah, it is a reality in existence and it can be studied. In that way, it is definite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Vivek. Thanks, Mr.
Suren, Suren Bhaiya?
Jivya, I think you though covered, but I was just about to add that it's definite that we can, its form is definite, and its structure is definite, and what kind of activities happens like Jivan Kriya, 10 types of Jivan Kriya, that is definite. That is what is the meaning of definitiveness or definite. Its form, activities, but how much activities can do like testing, selection, comparison, analysis, visualization, that is inexhaustible. It is
Hmm.
not like physical activity. There is a limit to physical activeness or activity, but the activity of Jivan is unending, eternal, inexhaustive. That is why it has inexhaustive strength and power, force, that kind of thing. That's what I just wanted to
Yeah, yeah, it's very nice. Thanks for adding that, Suren
add.
Bhaiya. Ganesh Bhaiya?
Yes, thank you very much, Spencer, for the very good explanation. And my question here is that the idea of Jivan was already there in the form of consciousness or in the form of uh, mind and soul. But Babaji said something that they have, after the Samadhi, during the Sanyam Kal, he has seen Jivan atom. So seen Jivan item means he has actually seen it, or it is based on the studies he has done. So can you put more light on the Jivan item? That is my question.
Okay, so there are two parts of your question. I mean, Spencer, you would like to take this up? Sorry, I jumped in.
I can just the first thing that came to my mind when we were talking about seeing, Babaji does say many times seeing is understanding. So in the same way that, let's say, a mathematician might see the world through math, they're not actually physically with their eyes seeing something, but through the math, they're able to understand that the earth goes around the sun. They're able to see the forces, the planetary forces. So while you're not able to physically see with your eyes, seeing is understanding. So I would assume that when Babaji says he's seen Jivan, it would be in the similar context, not with the eyes, but with knowledge. But I would please continue.
Yes, that's a very important insight, and I was about to say something including that. So one thing that you, Ganeshji, that you asked was the idea of soul and an entity being separate from the body was already there, but he seems to be talking about consciousness in a very definitive way in saying that it is an atom and it is basically having a nucleus and then four orbits and uh, and then describing about the details of it, which seems to be uh, something lot more or something different, which is not there in the tradition, right? So naturally the question actually comes that what does he means that he's when he says that he saw Jivan, and uh, what exactly that it means. So as in our first session that we talked about, where we talked about his state of having achieved samadhi, and then after that basically uh, improvising the method of Sanyam, right? In which he said that, okay, he put the question that he had, with which he had started in the state of Dhyan, and then basically opened it for dharana, for evidencing it in the form of living, So in the course of this, there is a process of adhyan, or the study, that actually is taking place, in which he is actually making observation about the reality, and there is an intellectual exercise that actually is happening. Now, just like as Spencer was saying, that a scientist actually, when he sees the things, he sees the things through mathematical model, right? There is a mathematical model, and the scientist actually tries to uh, map the world out there with his mathematical model and tallies that yes, it is so. Now, in the process of Adhyan, what is really taking place, that there is an alignment of buddhi along with the process that is actually taking place in his intellect, that is in his chit and vritti. So in the chit and vritti, the process that is taking place, that is the intellectual process that is taking place, right, where the body is still detached. That means it is not involving the brain, but the whole permutation combination of how the reality is taking place, and buddhi's engagement is there. Buddhi is the seer of that. Now, this actually is the process of seeing, because here it is acceptance of happening in buddhi, and along with that, there is certain visualization is also taking place, right? Because visualization is not something which is out there, but actually what is getting accepted is getting visualized. Okay, so there is a visualization of what has been intellectually processed, and there is a visualization of that. So when he actually says that I was able to count the number of particles, there was only one particle at the nucleus, there were two particles in the thing. So clearly there is a visualization as well, along with understanding. Okay, and this visualization is not something which is like seeing through the senses. It is visualization of what is being processed in Jeevan, and which buddhi is saying yes to. Okay. So the process of adhyan that actually is taking place in the state of Sanyam, it actually has the clean slate of samadhi. Thereafter, it has the question that he has started with, along with two realities that he had started off with, which are like, for example, what we had talked about, that he had identified that, yes, I am, even after my faculties of asha, vichar, ichha are silent. Okay, even then I am. That was one reality that he had identified. Second thing, that reality that he had identified was the space. That space is a reality itself, right? These two realities were as the seed realities with which he actually built the process of intellectual exercise, right? In which he had a multiple combinations of, uh, in which he processed against the jigyasa that he had, or the question that he had. And in this process, he actually started deriving on what further realities are. And in this process, he actually recognized the realities in essence in the form of Vikas Kram, Vikas, Jagriti Kram, Jagriti, right? So that actually has led to identifying the nature's reality. He actually understood in that there are actually nature in these statuses is there. As part of that, he also understood the consciousness and how consciousness manifests itself. So that is what I have understood from the process. I mean, after basically asking Babaji and whatever I could interpret from his writings, and also through the dialogues with him, that this, and further also discussing with other students like Sadhan Bhaiya and other people, that okay, this is what I have derived, that what would have happened to him in the state of Sanyam. So Sanyam is the state in which basically Samadhi is the basis, thereafter is the question, then the process of opening the faculties which had been controlled for achieving the Samadhi, under the question, under the light of that question, in a controlled fashion, in a restrained fashion. And then that actually has led to the certain visions and visualizations. And that basically is what he means. He has seen the realities, right, which became accepted in buddhi, resulting in his anubhav. And thereafter, the anubhav actually starts getting, when he further, basically, he opened the restraint on man also. And when he opened the man with the body, then he found the senses that were coming from the body, they became restrained with the anubhav, right? So that actually became the basis of his postulating that it is possible to live with realization. Okay. So, I mean, that is the basic idea, right? I know that it is a little difficult when I am actually expressing it in English, and which is the concept that we have. Uh,
No, Bhaiya, it's very clear. It's very clear. I'm understanding the concept of scene. Earlier, I was a bit confused, but now I'm getting the full clarity what is the meaning of scene is. And it's increasing, or rather making my faith on this, the whole philosophy. So yes,
yeah, I
wonderfully
also
explained
feel
both
that.
by you and Spencer. Yes, very good, sir. And this
Yeah, I
is the
also feel that
visualization and
Babaji's process
postulation.
of
That is the scene meaning. What I'm taking.
right. So Babaji's process of Sanyam is actually not something mysterious. That also we need to understand. If we keep that as something magic and mysterious, then we will actually not understand it. The process that we are also undergoing is actually, it is the process of understanding. It is an intellectual exercise. It is, and buddhi right now in each one of us is the seer of what is happening in our chit, right? And in the course, when the chit and our in and also related to that, all our living becomes aligned the way buddhi accepts it. That is the state when we say that this is about perceiving the reality as it is, which we call it direct perception or sakshatkar, right? So direct perception is nothing but actually our sakshatkar is nothing but our asha, vichar, ichha becoming aligned with the way reality is. And darshan actually gives us certain information for that, and based on which we can actually practice. Okay. And once this practice actually becomes mature, then buddhi takes charge, right? And the jivan actually becomes centered in buddhi instead of being centered in imagination. And prior to that, our center of self is the body. So our operating center actually moves from the body to our imagination to buddhi and finally to atma, right? So that is what basically is the process. Anubhav Gami Vidhi. That is, we are moving towards the center of our consciousness. So the consciousness, first is that it is identified with the body. Then the consciousness is identified with the imaginations. Okay. Then the consciousness is identified with the buddhi, which is the understanding. Then the consciousness is identified with Atma, that is with the realization. This is the sequence of things.
And
Yeah.
that the end effect is liberation.
Yes, that's
That,
the
that
point
is
of
the
liberation. Yeah.
that is the moksha which we say normally.
Right, right. And that moksha is not something that is to become out of this world. It is about becoming the basis of relating in this world. Right.
Wonderfully explained, and it has made a lot of clarifications. Thank you. Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Uh, Anyone we want to add to this, Trishta, Surendra Bhaiya? Anyone wants to add to this? Or
Uh, because Uncle asked about visualizing and understanding, I was just reminded of how Baba used to say that he started seeing things like we would see on the TV. That's something memorable. And then also, on the other hand, he also says, when he was counting the different activities and the different conducts in the Jeevan, he also says, I think someone asked, did he see those? But he said, no, I reflected within and counted these activities in me. So the impression that gives is that he, because of that whole entire process that you described of Sanyam, the things that are physical and visible, I mean, not with the eyes, but with his other faculties, he was able to make some visualization of them. But the parts of existence or the aspects of existence that are not physical, those were understood based on reflection. So, like counting the action, you can count the particles, but you can't identify that conduct based on any sort of visualization that has to be understood. So, these two things that Baba has shared were coming back to me.
yeah. So clearly there are aspects which one can have the visualization of, and there are aspects what basically can only be reflected over, right? So a reality would always have these two things, right? So in the state of Sanyam, he is actually having both. We need to actually acknowledge that. So there is visualization also happening, and there is reflection also happening. So visualization is of what is getting reflected as well. So in that sense, that he is actually seeing the reality as well as understanding the reality. So
Yeah, which connects to what Spencer had highlighted in the beginning, that you can't actually be seeing it unless you understand it. So it's only because he was able to make sense of what was visible that he could actually say that I saw it.
Yes.
And once you understand the things, it is as good as you are able to see that.
Yes. Right.
Good addition by Drishta Vidya. Good addition.
Very nice. So is there any other thing that we want to discuss in today's session?
I think Surya has raised the hand.
Yes, Surya.
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. This was my first time actually attending the session. Thank you so much. It was very insightful, actually.
Very nice.
So, one question. Thank you. So one thing that actually caught my attention during Spencer's reading was that I noticed that there was a chain which meant that understanding leads to resolution, leads to happiness. I wanted to understand if this resolution aspect, does this mean like a purpose in life that universally all of us have, and is reaching that something that gives happiness? Is that the idea behind this? And my other question would be, would this also relate to the trying to create a value system that is universal for humanity? Is that just in relation to that? These were the two questions that came to my mind.
Spencer.
I think I'll let you answer this one, Rakeshji.
Okay.
Also, I don't. I have to apologize. I'm going to have to step out for here. I know this session I was leading, but my grandmother, her health has just taken the turn
Oh,
a little bit for the worse, and my mom is trying to call me right now. So it's fine. I'm good, but I just need to attend to this a little bit urgently. So I will just have to sign off here. Estelle can take my seat, and I will have to listen to this answer afterwards because it's a good question.
thank you, Spencer, and hope your mom feels better. And thank you for both the sessions. It was very insightful. Wish you all the best. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, and I'll be here for the next session. And sorry, I have to step out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Please. Please. Yeah.
Take care.
So, so the question that Surya Bhai, what you said was there is a order of understanding leads to resolution, resolution leads to happiness. So what are we really saying here, right? So, so one is that understanding is what is understanding here? It is about the acceptance of reality. Okay. It is acceptance of purpose. It is acceptance of order in the existence. That is what understanding is. Okay. Understanding means understanding of the way reality is. That is understanding of the order of existence and the way the things are. Resolution is about actually having the answers of every why and how. Okay, we need to, because in the course of our living, we need to have the answers, right? So that is when we need to have the answer of why we want to do something and how we want to do this thing, do that thing. If we have the answer for these two things, it will manifest in our happiness. In the absence of having these answers about why I should do something, इसका purpose क्या है और इसको कैसे करना है, unless both these answers are there with us, we cannot be happy. We will stay in the conflict. So that is the thing about that. Now, coming to the second part of your question, are we talking about universal values here? Okay. Are we talking about that values are common across the people? And so here, basically, what we are really saying is that existence has a certain order, and this order has certain complementariness. कुछ इसमें पूरकताएं हैं, है ना? There are certain पूरकता, complementariness is there. These complementariness that are there, they are universal, like a complementariness between mother and the son or daughter, complementariness between husband and wife, complementariness between brother and sister, between a teacher and student. So these are basically universal, and they can be universal, meaning it is there as much there in an American as it is there in an Indian, as it is there in any human being. So these each complementariness actually maps to a kind of a relationship, and this relationship has a certain expectations inherent in it. हर संबंध में कुछ अपेक्षाएं निश्चित हैं. There are each relationship has a certain expectation, and these expectations are fulfilled through the values, right? So, like for example, the expectation of a child from her mother is of nurturing. Okay, so this is a value. Nurturing is a value. Okay, that a mother gives to the child. This is a universal value. Okay. In the same way, there are universal values that can be understood, right? There is a certain value between a teacher and a student. There is a certain value between uh, a husband and a wife. Okay. So if we understand, this is what is understood. So when we say first is the context of understanding, then this understanding gives the framework of certain system or the order in which the things are. Within this order, there are actually complementariness, and in this complementariness, there are values. तो हम लोग क्या कहेंगे? समझ, फिर उससे व्यवस्था, व्यवस्था में संबंध, संबंध में मूल्य. इस तरह से समझ एक मतलब अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज यूनिवर्सल. बेस्ड ऑन दैट देयर इज अ ऑर्डरलीनेस और सिस्टम, है ना, उसका एक व्यवस्था है. व्यवस्था में कुछ पूरकताएं हैं. देयर आर सर्टेन कॉम्प्लीमेंटरीनेस which actually are the relationship, and these relationships are fulfilled through values. So values, if you look at it in this chain, comes at the fourth level. And then we actually say, well, context of value is relationship. Context of relationship is the vyavastha. Context of vyavastha is the samaj, right? So that is how basically we look at it, that yes, it actually envisions a universal values for humans. Okay. But the context of that needs to be understood, right? So it's not that the human values are without the context. Values are in the context of vyavastha, right? So that is something. Anyone wants to add to this? Okay, so if not any more questions, then we can maybe look to closing this session. I think Spencer had done a wonderful job, and all of us were so enriched in the last two sessions by him, and we thoroughly enjoyed that. And next week or on Wednesday, it will, or what is the day today? Today is Wednesday. Yeah, Saturday. Saturday, Jay Kishan Agarwal will actually take us from the point where Spencer has left. So wish you all the best and see you again on Saturday. Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. सभी को नमस्कार.
Thank you. Namaste.
राकेश भैया जी बहुत
Thank
सुंदर,
you.
सभी का बहुत प्रेरणादायी प्रयास